Okay, here we are. Wow, Nancy, it's so wonderful to see you. Episode 5 of our Nancy's Nourishing Kitchen. And you've got incredible things lined up for us today. And one of the things that I'm always so aware of is that you're, as I said to you a little earlier, I really appreciate, and I think everyone appreciates your generosity of spirit and your perspective on how to eat healthy, but yet eat really incredibly well. So we've got something that's everyone's favorite today. And on that, would you like to kind of tell us what we're going to talk about?
We're going to talk about grilling, one of the great joys of summer, as I like to think about it. The first thing we think about when the weather gets warmer is being outside. Grilling is a very seasonal topic. In the winter, right? We've talked about it probably before. We're doing more soups and roasts and braises. With the seasons, cooking techniques change, and everybody just loves to be outside with their grill. And they can grill meat and vegetables, pizzas people are doing on the grill. So I thought it would just be a perfect topic. I know it's a little gray and rainy and cold here on Long Island today, but we've had some beautiful days in the past week. And so that's been my inspiration.
Wait. Pizzas. You said pizzas. We can do pizzas on the grill?
Do pizza on the grill.
Oh no, and you're going to help us with that. I'm always afraid something like that would fall right through the grates. You know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
There's you
But
can do it on the grill.
there's a way to work around that, I'm sure, right?
There is. There
All right,
is.
good. So one of the things I'm aware of is that normally when you do go out to the grill, there's always a question of, when do you put the marinade on? When do you go ahead and, do you do it before? Do you do it afterwards? And then, how do you really kind of make it interesting and how do you make it kind of fun? And you have some insight around that, I'm sure, in terms of, kind of the ways you go about it. So what are some of the tips that people need to know about?
Well, just talking about marinades, and we're going to share a bunch of different marinades, but I've got a bunch of different flavor profiles. I always talk about mixing things up. And when you marinate stuff, meat takes longer to marinate. So you can let that sit 4 or 5 hours up to overnight. Vegetables and fish, 20, 30 minutes. That's all you really need. But what I really wanted to, when I talk about grilling, and especially with regards to meat, you don't want to use the more sugary marinades. So acid-based vinegar, lemon juice, that kind of thing, those marinades are better for meat. They're also better for the grill. We'll talk about, some of the high heat stuff and some of the unhealthy risks of grilling animal protein, especially on the grill. That's not so healthy. And marinades will help mitigate those health risks. And they also bring a lot of flavor. But you marinate before, and if you're going to use barbecue sauce, you really put that on at the very last end because the sugar in the sauce is going to give you flare-ups and things like that, and you really don't want that when you're grilling your meat.
So in other words, if you put anything with sugar on there before, it actually kind of will betray maybe perhaps whether or not it's really cooked, whether or not it's well done. It'll maybe have the appearance of being cooked, but then you always wind up with some of that stuff internally that doesn't look like it's really done, right?
Right, because the sugars in, say, a barbecue sauce caramelize fast and then they burn, so you kind of get that burnt, crispy look on the outside, but you don't necessarily know if your meat's cooked on the inside.
And one of the questions I always have about marinades are, what do you do with it after you finish the marinade? Can you use it like as a sauce? I mean, are marinades themselves, good for like, cooking or you adding into other dishes and so on? Do you have some, from my view, I mean, I know we're going to talk about a lot of different kinds of marinades, but overall, do you just kind of throw it out afterwards, or what do you do with that stuff?
So it depends. If you're going to use it to marinate vegetables, then you can use it as a sauce or as a dressing. If you're going to use it to marinate meat, you either throw it out because you've got raw meat in this marinade and you don't want to put it on cooked fresh food, or you can take that marinade and put it in a pot on the stove and boil it down for 5 to 10 minutes, and that will cook it out and will get rid of the bacteria, and then you can use that as a sauce. But never use a marinade that you have had raw meat or fish in on food. You either discard it or you cook it down for a good 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can use it as a sauce.
Really? So you can cook that down, and I guess you'd add some more water or some oil or something else into that to kind of liquefy it a bit?
Yeah, it depends on how much you have. You know, if you have a little bit, sometimes cooking it down will make it thicker and more syrupy, and then you'll have, especially if there's, say, balsamic vinegar in it, and you'll just have kind of a thicker drizzle, if you will. So it depends on what you want to use it for. You can always add more liquid and other ingredients that maybe you already had in the original marinade to make a bigger pot of it.
So
Or
what?
another thing is, if you're making the marinade, keep some off to the side,
Mm,
fresh,
mhm.
marinate your meat in the other, and then you can use your fresh marinade as either a dressing or a sauce.
So is there kind of a rule of thumb for, different like burgers or meats or versus poultry or fish? I mean, in terms of how long do you marinate, and then how do you then approach the cooking process?
Well, there's really no rule of thumb. Um, Vegetables don't require a lot. Fish does not require a lot because the acid will actually start to cook the fish. If anybody has actually had ceviche, it's
Mm,
raw fish that sits in lime juice or citrus juice or vinegar, and it actually cooks the fish. So you
mm.
don't want to cook fish for long. Chicken, 4 or 5 hours is great. Overnight is fine. Steaks, flank steak, the tougher cuts of meat really benefit from longer marinating, because what it does is it'll break down the fibers a little bit and tenderize the meat. Before you put the meat on the grill, always, I don't want to say dry it off, but take it out of the marinade and really let it drip, because adding all that liquid onto your grill is going to add a lot more flare-ups and things like that. There's
Mhm.
no real rule of thumb. The lighter the meat, the less time it needs to spend in the marinade. But believe it or not, if you only have an hour, throw your chicken in or throw your steak in, and it's still going to add some flavor. So
Mm.
don't freak out if you don't have time or you forget to marinate something for 6, 8 hours or overnight.
So that's an interesting idea. The lighter the meat, or the lighter and when you say the lighter, you mean the color of the flesh, or versus a dark red versus a white fish or something like that?
I would say just more of the density, right? So, fish, whether you're having an oily fish, a salmon or a flounder, it's a lighter textured meat. Chicken is a little, did somebody speak? Chicken is a little, am I
We're
echoing?
good. No, yeah, you're echoing a little bit, but I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. So I didn't mean to interrupt like that. It was throwing me off. I find like chicken breasts, you marinate them overnight, they're fine, but a few hours they get, the acid is going to change the texture a little bit. So they get maybe a little less mealy, but a flank steak is amazing if you do it overnight. So you think about the difference between a chicken breast and a steak. The texture of the meat, the fibers are tighter, and the muscle is different in the beef as opposed to the chicken. So a little less time works. But again, if you marinate your chicken overnight, you're not going to ruin it.
Right. Okay. So, and then, in terms of cooking it, I guess you always want to cook chicken through. Steak or meat depends upon whether or not you like it rare or well done. And
Right.
then fish, generally fish is all fish sort of like, 5 to 10 minutes in terms of time, or does that vary as well?
It varies depending on the thickness, really, of the fish. And especially if you're grilling, you're going to do, you're either going to put maybe a grill pan on top of your grill. So flounder fillets are going to fall apart on the grill, but you can put it on a grill pan, with tighter spaces so it doesn't fall through the grill. Fish, 10, 15 minutes maybe at the most until it just flakes and it's cooked through. Chicken, you always want to cook to an internal temperature. So when you're cooking any kind of animal protein, you really should get an instant read thermometer, because you tend to cook more to temperature than to time.
Hmm.
So depending on the thickness of your meat or your chicken, it may take you 20 minutes to cook some chicken, or it may take you 40 minutes to cook some chicken. So the internal temperature for cooked poultry, I usually go to 165, and then it's going to cook a little bit after. I don't have the other cooking times for meat committed to memory. if I recall, should probably be about 150, 155. And then your steaks are going to vary because rare versus well done are going to be different. But those are also easy things to be able to look online for internal temperatures of meat. But instant meat thermometers are not expensive. I think everybody should get one because you really don't want to cut into your meat while it's cooking, you know, to see if it's done or not. Go for temperature more than time.
Right. So these instant read thermometers really take kind of the guesswork out of like just looking at it on the surface. You know, it looks like it's well done, but then you cut into it and it's still raw. You know.
Absolutely. I've done that. You know, it's like all of a sudden you cut open a chicken and it's still pink at the bone and the juices.
I think I've lost you there, Nancy.
Are coming out red.
Yeah.
You don't want you look at the back.
No, you're really.
Are we back now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but for some reason the throughput was coming through a little slow. So my question was about the instant read thermometers. And did everyone else hear if you like this or which way? Kind of like, no, it wasn't really that good, a little down. Okay. Yeah, so you're stuck now. You're frozen, Nancy. Okay, you there still, Nancy?
You know, sometimes the internet goes down. Yeah.
Okay.
Nancy, you're down. I can't hear you.
Okay. So Nancy, I'm not sure what's happening, but let me put you back on my screen. Oh, Nancy's calling back in. So
we just had a gust of wind pass by, so maybe it disrupted her connection.
yeah, well, that sometimes can happen. You know, the internet, depending upon where you are, and I think one of the things that we're very well aware of now. I read a stat today that there were 300 million people on Zoom every day.
Wow, that's
300
incredible.
300 million people on Zoom every day.
Is that worldwide or just the U.S., Keith?
In the U.S., there were 300. Actually, they said that they were processing 300 million people a day who were participating. So I guess maybe it is worldwide. But I think, Nancy, you're back on. There
Am
you
I
go.
back?
You are back on. There you
All
go.
right.
You're louder and clearer than before.
It's a little rainy and windy here, so I guess it's affecting my internet. I apologize.
No. You're not the internet wizard of all. So, you know, you're. So this is good. We're really very thankful that you're providing us with your knowledge. So you were saying that getting one of the thermal thermometers is really going to be very helpful for the meat, and that takes the guesswork out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. And they have temperature
They
gauges.
call it in.
No, you're slowing.
Temperature gauge, you want to get it in the thick part of the meat and it will give you an accurate read.
No, you slowed down again. We couldn't hear everything. I think so I'll tell you what, Nancy, just because even though you're lovely to look at, put on your stop your video just to see if there's a big difference. Okay, can you hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Yes.
All right, so maybe we'll just keep the video off.
Yeah, why don't we keep the video off for the moment, and this way we can hear you if you don't mind, and that way you can, you know, you take advantage of not having the video on, and you know, give us some insight, maybe if you need to get some notes or whatever, because I'm going to ask you a challenging question now, okay? And this is from a guy who likes to eat plants. Okay, now I know we're talking about barbecuing. And you know, normally that's all about meats and poultries and fish, but what about us guys who like to eat plants? Now, you know, we're real men too, and you know, we like to like barbecue. So what do we do?
do exactly what you're doing with the meat, except plants don't have to be cooked as long, really just until they're slightly tender. You don't want mushy plants. Big pieces will be perfect on the grill. So if you think of taking an eggplant, maybe and slicing it in half, a little drizzle of olive oil, salt, and pepper, and that goes directly on the grill. Summer squash, don't cut them into small pieces. That'll fall into the grill. So anything, onions are amazing on the grill. They get nice and caramelized, but just do thick slices. You can also, in any store, Bed Bath & Beyond or Target, you can get a grill pan and you can put that directly on the grill, and the space, like I said earlier, is great for fish. It's also great for vegetables. It's smaller, so your little pieces of vegetables won't fall through the grates and you can still enjoy the grilling without diving into a hamburger. So same process, just you're gonna cook it less. Then you can stick a fork in it, and if it really just leads a little texture to it, it's all good. And it's all about your taste. If you like softer vegetables, cook them a little longer.
Now, I'm curious because you say the same process. So I find if I put vegetables on the grill for 15 minutes, that doesn't do it at all. Like I've got to put, you know, especially if I have one of those grill pans, it seems like I got to cook them like, you know, a half hour or 45 minutes or something. So, you know, is that your experience, or maybe I just have a cheap grill? I don't know.
I don't know. That's not my experience. To me, vegetables really do cook
Fairly well.
pretty quickly. So I tend to like to cook everything like, am I using again? Now I can't hear you at all.
No, you lost us again. You went stuttered in terms of the audio.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
I'm a little bit better in terms of hearing you. I'm gonna see something. I'm gonna make you co-host, Nancy. See if that makes any difference.
Okay.
Okay. So I've just turned it over to you as co-host, and see if that makes any difference at all.
Okay, so can you hear me now? Do I need to do anything?
No, we're good now. We can hear you fine. That's good.
Good.
Okay, so
And I should still leave the video off, right?
yeah, I think so. Although
Now I lost you.
if you want to just check in and show us your face, that's fine. But I think we can hear you loud and clear. That's good.
Okay, as long as you can hear me, that's good.
Yeah. So we were saying about the veggies. We were saying about the veggies.
It depends. It usually doesn't take me that long to cook vegetables. Maybe turn up your heat a little bit. I always like to grill more on like a medium heat. Could be the thickness of your vegetables. So you really have to play around with it. It also depends on how you like your texture. If you like them really cooked more, they are going to take longer. So again, it's pretty much self-experimentation.
Good. So the squash, the eggplants, the peppers, you know, being able to go ahead and put them in big pieces, get one of those grill pans and put them in for, you know, as long as you would do your meats, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and you're in pretty good shape is what you're saying. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Always test them, taste them, you know, take a piece of pepper off the grill. And if you like the way it tastes and you like the way it feels in your mouth, then it's good.
Sign of a good chef is to taste your food. Huh?
Taste. Yeah.
Yeah.
All along the way.
And then do you add the marinades on top of those, or what happens with those as well?
I like to marinate the vegetables for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then put that on. And then after they're cooked, because it's not raw meat, you can take what's left over and you put your vegetables on a plate or on a platter, and you can take that marinade as a dressing and just drizzle more of it on top of your vegetables for an added boost of flavor. So
wonderful. Good. That sounds great. And many of these marinades that you've got, you can use as sort of like just sauces in some way. They all sound like really good sauces in and of themselves without necessarily even having to marinate anything, but adding them to a meal. Is that true?
are universal, so you can use them as a marinade or as a dressing or as a sauce. In these recipes, because I was thinking about it for putting it on the grill, I left out any kind of sweetener, but you can always add a little bit of sweetener, a little bit of maple syrup. Those are my two healthy sweeteners of choice, because sweeteners always balance out, say, the acid of the dressing, and that probably makes it a little tastier or not as tart if you're going to use it as a sauce or a dressing. Also, if you have some of those sweeteners in there, you can put any of these marinades in a saucepan on the stove and reduce the sauce to drizzle on top of your vegetables, on top of your meat. Toss it with pasta, toss it with a grain, you know, the possibilities are endless. Great on beans.
Okay, great. So you were coming in and out over there, but I think we got the gist of it. But tell me, Nancy, out of your marinades here, I think you've got 6 marinades that you listed. And I'd like to hear the 6, but then I'd like to hear what your kind of favorite is, because it may be the most versatile. Perhaps you have any favorites? You still there, Nancy? Can't hear you at all, Nancy. Nope. I know you're there, but we can't hear you. I think you should drop out and then come back in. So, so Nancy, I'm gonna talk about what kind of marinades you've got here and give you some time to go ahead and drop out and then maybe come back in. So a couple of the ones that Nancy has talked about today was fresh herb marinade. And the fresh herb marinade sounds really good. It's got half a cup of virgin olive oil. There she is. You back in, Nancy? I can see you, but we can't hear you.
All right, how's that? Better?
Much better. Okay, good. I was just about to run down the list of the kind of marinades you've got. Can't hear you now, though. Nope. So I'm not sure what's going on, but here we've got fresh herb marinade. That's a half a cup of virgin olive oil, a zest of lemon, fresh lemon juice, tablespoon of honey, garlic clove, quarter cup of chopped fresh parsley, quarter cup of basil, dill, cilantro, or oregano, sea salt, black pepper, and then a half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. That sounds really good. That's like a wonderful kind of marinade that you can use on almost anything, you know?
That's probably
you said something.
one of my favorites.
That's one of your favorites?
You hear me, right?
No, not
Yeah,
really well.
favorites, especially in the summertime. Not really well. I don't know what's going on today. We may have to redo this.
We may have to redo the whole thing, you know, the whole show. Yeah, well, the show must go on, Nancy. The show must go on. But this is all part of the wonder of it all, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you like the fresh herb marinade as well, don't you?
I do. That's my favorite, especially in the summer. Throw in any fresh herbs you want, and it gives everything a super fresh bite. Just really summer on a plate is how I think about it.
Right, and that sounds like it would be good in a nice sort of a mixed pasta, you know, with, you can throw in different kinds of vegetables in that. You can go ahead and use that with anything, right?
Absolutely. Anything.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. Then there's another one here that sounds incredible for me because my profile would be more Asian, like I like the Asian palate. So there's 2 here you've got. One is called ginger sesame and the other one's called Asian, just Asian straight up. So the ginger sesame is a half a cup of toasted sesame oil. Boy, that sounds incredible so far. A quarter of a cup of tamari soy sauce. And I guess, can you use a Bragg's amino acids instead? I guess you could.
You can. They're very, very similar. Tamari is just a gluten-free soy sauce, and you can do Bragg liquid aminos or coconut aminos. The coconut aminos are a little sweeter.
Okay. You went out on that one. Then you've got 2 tablespoons of grated ginger and 2 garlic cloves, minced or grated, sea salt to taste. Very simple, very nice. And I can just see throwing some of that on some nice noodles with some mushrooms and some, some other stuff that I myself would probably add in some chickpeas, or maybe even add in some tofu or something. But you can put a nice piece of chicken in there as well. That sounds really, really good. You still with us, Nancy? Yeah, no, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. And then we've got a Mexican, but we've got the other Asian one here, which is a quarter of a cup of rice vinegar, 1 shallot finely diced, a tablespoon of tamari, quarter cup of toasted sesame oil. Wow. A quarter a cup of avocado oil. Avocado oil. I'm going to have to buy some avocado oil. Yeah. And then we've got some sea salt, fresh pepper to taste. So that's the Asian. And then that sounds pretty good. The one that then we've got a Mediterranean here. The Mediterranean, this sounds good, Phil. I think you might like this one. Mediterranean, quarter cup of red wine vinegar, right? A tablespoon of Dijon mustard, tablespoon of dried oregano, thyme, rosemary, a half a cup of virgin olive oil, fresh black pepper, red pepper, flakes, and whatever you want, optional. That sounds like a great marinade for some meats or whatever, right? Yep, good. And Nancy, you're back on the line again, so can you hear us now? Okay. Oh boy, we're having some internet stuff coming on.
All right, are we better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better, Nancy. I can hear you. No. No. So I've run through most of the menu here, Nancy. We haven't gotten to the Mexican yet. You want to?
How's that?
Nope, can't hear you, Nancy. Oh boy. Okay. So let's do the Mexican. I'm doing a Mexican hat dance here. La cucaracha. So a quarter cup of freshly squeezed lime, a half a teaspoon of ground cumin. Cumin is my absolute go-to in terms of like fallbacks. Half a cup of virgin olive oil and 1 tablespoon of finely chopped cilantro. And yep, we're going to have the recipes up on the website. We're going to put them all there, so everybody gets the recipes, which is always very, very, very helpful. I think Nancy's going to join us in a second. And I think one of the things that we can do, certainly in the meantime, is kind of put together some questions. But let me see if Nancy, because we're almost we got about 4 or 5 minutes here until we go towards the end of the tape. But let me just open this up if anyone wants to share, or are there any other questions that might come up in the meantime. So I'm going to unmute everybody. You're all unmuted, and Nancy's just joined us back. You there, Nancy?
Now I'm here.
Okay, put on your video. Let's see you. There you go.
Here we are.
Okay. We can see you. Okay, good. So I've run through, Nancy, I've run through all the recipes, and now there's some questions that might come up. So we're on track. We're just a little bifurcated. You know, we've done a little bit of stumble. We're human beings. So
Thanks for playing chef, Keith.
Yeah, well, it's easy
Actually,
it's easy when you give me your notes. So
my daughter actually just sent like a little group text. Is everybody's internet crashing? So for some reason, we're all having a little trouble here. So I'm blaming it on the east end of Long Island.
absolutely, we blame it on the man in the sky, the internet. It's a miracle that we even can do this, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
seriously.
we've made
15,
it through week 5, so we've done pretty good.
well, 15 years ago, this would have been like futuristic kind of sci-fi stuff, and here we are doing it.
Right.
So we've got everything open right now. So are there any questions that might be popped up that anyone, and just a reminder, if you asked a question, your video will come on and you will be recorded as a part of this, and we'll be posting all the recipes and everything up on the Center for Wellbeing site. So open it up. I'm going to go on mute. Anyone?
Nancy, which marinade is your
Hi, Phil.
favorite? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very
I tend to go with Keith. So I love the fresh herb just
Mhm.
because of the fresh herbs. And then I almost do a combination of the ginger sesame Asian. So I tend to combine a little bit of both. So I'll throw some ginger into the Asian or some shallot and rice vinegar into the ginger sesame. And it just adds a different flavor profile, and it will change up your meat. It will change up your vegetables. We tend to go Mediterranean. It's just the easy default. So that's one of my next favorite. Were you able to hear that, Phil?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
I think we just had another Zoom meeting, and my neighbors from Delaware, their internet was out, so they had to go over the phone lines, and they used the telephone that went, and that worked well also. You know, it happens once in a while. The internet's not working. We really have to have gratitude to appreciate when it does work.
It's true. We take it for it's like a given to us that it's available, at any second in time. So,
24/7.
yeah.
I personally can't wait to grill a pizza. And Keith, I have two pizza pans. One is solid and one has the airflow holes. And we usually use it for the oven. And I also bought it to use on the grill. So I can't wait to barbecue a pizza. My neighbor's going to think I'm crazy.
There's nothing better than grilled pizza. It's great. The only thing is if you tend to like a really thin crust pizza in the oven, I don't do that on the grill because it gets a little unstable. But if you're doing it on one of those pans, do whatever you like. It's the best.
Yes.
Ann made pizza. She made the dough 2 days ago. Was her turn to make dinner. We're taking turns. And she had yeast and she made a delicious pizza in the oven. She made the dough and we had gotten some mozzarella cheese and just sauce and oregano, and we had it was delicious. Yeah. So
Wow.
Phil, you should make your pizza.
I'm ready. I bought all the ingredients for it, and we just didn't buy the dough, but we'll be making it and very soon. And I can't wait to grill some roasted peppers. Oh, they are
That's like my favorite thing, roasted peppers. Yeah, on the grill.
Roasted peppers are amazing.
Roasted zucchini. Yeah.
Great.
I can tell it's getting close to lunchtime. I'm already.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
So
The timing is perfect for these calls.
So mixing in the fresh herb with some of the ginger, and then of course the Mediterranean as a good fallback, and then doing the pizzas on the grill. That sounds interesting to me. I haven't done that, but I'm going to try that. And you make your own fresh dough, and you make your own fresh stuff.
Definitely try. Sometimes I do, but sometimes like North Shore Farms has a really good fresh pizza dough. So I've made my own, and I've also bought in a store. We made a sausage bread. We had local sausage the other day, and the IGA in Greenport had fresh dough for the first time I saw it. And in a pinch, I grabbed that, and it was delicious. So fresh dough is very easy to make, but you can also get really good fresh dough in other stores or go directly to a pizzeria. A lot of times pizzeria will just sell you their fresh dough.
Really?
My mom did that. Yeah.
Really? I'm still back in the day where I take an English muffin and maybe make that into a pizza. So I guess that's not a real pizza. So
Well, I didn't have that as a kid, right? English muffin pizzas, they were great.
English muffin pizzas. That's true. That's very true. So we've got a couple of minutes here before we sign off, but I know we've had a couple of technical difficulties here, and some folks might not have heard everything. So is there any other questions that you might have for Nancy? Again, these recipes will be up on the website, and the video will be up there if you want to listen to it again. And let me be quiet so you could ask your question.
And I will jump in for the question. Everybody has my email address too. So if this is too spotty for you, feel free to just email me with any questions, and I'll be happy to repeat anything that you missed or answer anything else. So I'm always available.
So what is your email for those who don't have it, and how do people get a hold of you then, Nancy?
It's my full name, Nancy Ferraris, F-E-R-A-R-I-S, at me.com. It's the easiest way.
Nancy, N-A-N-C-Y, Ferraris, F-E-R-R-A-R-I-S, at me.com, right?
That's it. Right.
Perfect. Okay, good. And thank you again for putting up with all the technical difficulties, Nancy. You're giving us such great information. I don't know if you saw it, but, you know, we were all kind of like pushing into the screen and kind of like, you know, what's going on? Is she all right? You know? So, you know, we really do care a lot. And I just want to thank you again for your time and your enthusiasm and for all the care you put into this. So thank you.
Thank you. And I love being here. I love seeing you guys. I love all your questions and comments. And I also love when you guys talk about doing other things beyond following a recipe. It makes me very, very happy. And that's really where the inspiration comes from. So
Right.
this makes my day.
So we'll see you next week. That'll be segment 6, and we'll figure out in the meantime what that's all about. But we'll close out this segment of Nancy's Nourishing Kitchen. And this is Keith Fiveson for the Center of Wellbeing and Manhasset. And thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.